The house on Willow Creek Road had been on the market for nearly a decade. It sat on the edge of town like a scar nobody wanted to acknowledge. 2 stories of peeling paint, sagging shutters, and a porch that groaned when the wind moved through it. Real estate agents stopped bothering after the 5th family left within months, some abandoning furniture mid-room, doors unlocked, lights still burning. Rachel Monroe knew all this when she signed the papers. She wasn't naive, just desperate. 34, divorced and tired of month-to-month apartments, she needed something permanent. Her job at the local newspaper didn't pay much, but the house came cheap enough to feel like a miracle. She told herself it was superstition, nothing more. People spook easy in small towns, especially when tragedy hangs around long enough to settle into the walls. The house had history, sure, but so did every place in Ashbrook. The first night was quiet. Too quiet, in fact. She moved her boxes in, cracked a beer on the porch, and listened to the cicadas until the sky went dark. No footsteps, no whispers, no cold spots like the stories had promised. Just the creak of an old house shifting in the night. Still, around 2 a.m., she woke to the sound of knocking. 3 sharp raps, deliberate, echoing from somewhere beneath the floor. Rachel sat up, heart hammering. "Pipes," she muttered, though it sounded too steady, too human. She padded barefoot through the hall, listening. The house held its breath. When she reached the bottom step, silence wrapped itself around her like a heavy quilt. The knocking didn't come again. By morning, she'd convinced herself she'd dreamed it. Sleep deprivation played tricks, and she hadn't had more than 4 hours in days. She made coffee, stacked books on sagging shelves, and laughed at herself for even entertaining the thought. But that night, the knocking returned. Same time, 2:13 a.m. Her neighbor, Mrs. Green, was a wiry woman in her 60s with a jaw like carved stone. She leaned on the fence the following afternoon, cigarette dangling from her fingers. "You moved in, huh?" she said flatly. Rachel offered a smile. "Looks like it." Mrs. Green squinted. "You hear it yet?" Rachel's smile faltered. "Hear what?" "The knocks." Smoke curled from her lips. "Always at 2:13. House don't like being quiet that long." Rachel laughed nervously. "Pipes. Old wood. Nothing more." The older woman didn't laugh back. "That house eats people," she said, tapping ash to the dirt. "Ask the Millers, ask the Hansons, if you can find them." Rachel shifted uneasily. "People move all the time. Not in the middle of the night, not without taking their kids." The word settled heavy in her stomach. She wanted to ask more, but Mrs. Green crushed her cigarette and walked off without another word. That evening, Rachel found herself listening for it long before midnight. She sat at her desk, papers scattered, pen tapping against the page. Her lamp buzzed faintly, casting a weak halo of light against the dark. When 2:13 came, the first knock nearly sent her out of her chair. 3 knocks, even, deliberate, directly beneath her feet. Rachel pressed her hand to the floorboards. The wood was cold, almost icy, as if something beneath the house leached the warmth away. "Hello?" she whispered, absurd even as the word left her lips. Silence. Then a faint whisper, so soft she almost doubted it. A single word, curling up through the cracks in the wood like smoke. "Stay." Rachel yanked her hand back as if burned. The house groaned, and for the first time, she felt certain the stories weren't superstition at all. Rachel didn't sleep the rest of that night. She sat on the couch with every lamp blazing, scrolling through her phone until sunrise bled pale light across the curtains. Each time the shadows shifted, she swore something moved just out of view. By morning, exhaustion dulled the fear, but it never left. She went into the newsroom late, claiming car trouble, and tried to bury herself in routine. But even as she edited copy and chased down quotes for a zoning dispute article, her mind kept circling back. 3 knocks, 1 word, always at 2:13. At lunch, she pulled the archive key from her desk. The Ashbrook Gazette's morgue was little more than a basement with shelves of yellowing newspapers. The air smelled of dust and ink, the kind of place history forgot. She searched Willow Creek Road first, then the address. It didn't take long. Family of 5 missing. No trace in Willow Creek home. Local teenagers found dead in abandoned house. Miller family flees Ashbrook overnight. Authorities investigate disturbances at vacant property. Always the same place. Always late-night disappearances, knocks reported by neighbors, timelines ending abruptly. The oldest clipping chilled her most. A grainy black and white photo of the house, fresher paint but the same bones. The article quoted neighbors describing knocking sounds at the same hour each night, always 3, always at 2:13. It wasn't pipes, it wasn't settling wood, it had been happening for decades. That night, Rachel bought a bottle of bourbon on the way home. She poured a glass and sat cross-legged on the living room rug, staring at the floorboards as if waiting for a cue. When the clock ticked toward 2, her skin prickled. The air seemed heavier, thicker, as if the house knew she was listening. At 2:13, the knocks came. Steady, patient. Rachel slammed her palm against the wood. "What do you want?" Silence for a breath. Then another word, ragged and low, rising from beneath. "Open." She froze. "Open what?" The floor groaned as though something shifted beneath it. A draft of air slithered through the cracks, cold and sour, carrying the faint smell of earth. Her courage cracked. She stumbled back, knocking the bourbon glass over. It bled into the rug like dark soil. Rachel didn't sleep again. By day 3, she was unraveling. Her eyes were bloodshot, hands trembling. The newsroom chatter grated against her nerves. She decided to confide in someone. Detective James Callahan had covered enough of her articles to know she wasn't prone to dramatics. He was broad-shouldered, pragmatic, the kind of man who carried wariness like a badge. Over coffee, she told him everything. The knocks, the whispers, the word "open." Callahan listened without interrupting, but his expression hardened. "You need to get out of that house," he said finally. Rachel bristled. "So you believe me?" "I believe you're hearing something. But that place?" He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I've been on calls there. Noise complaints, missing persons, reports of people breaking in and never coming out. We never prove anything, never find evidence, just absence." "Then why doesn't anyone do something?" she snapped. His jaw tightened. "Because you can't arrest a house." That night, she tried something new. She set up her phone on record, propped against the coffee table, aimed at the floorboards. If she couldn't convince herself, maybe evidence would. At 2:13, she sat rigid, every muscle braced. The knocks came, 3 sharp blows. She pressed her lips shut, refusing to speak. The phone caught it all. But when she played it back, her stomach twisted. The video showed her sitting still, eyes wide, but there were no knocks. No sound at all, except for a whisper at the very end. Not from beneath the floor. From behind her. Rachel. The recording gnawed at her sanity, watching herself sit stiffly while the phone picked up nothing. No knocks, no floor creaks, only her name whispered like breath down her neck. Left Rachel shaking. She slammed her laptop shut, but the silence afterward felt worse, as if the house was holding its breath. By morning, she was jittery, snapping at coworkers, barely holding herself together. Callahan texted once, "Move out, Rachel, please." She ignored it. If she left now, she'd never forgive herself. She was a journalist, and beneath the fear burned something sharper. She wanted the truth. That night, she went looking for it. She dug through the basement, a cramped space with cobwebs thick enough to drag across her face. The concrete was cracked, the air damp. She ran her flashlight across the walls. That's when she saw them. marks etched deep into the cinder block. Scratches. Some were long and frantic, as if someone had clawed at the wall with bare hands. Others formed patterns, 3 vertical lines repeated over and over, gouged into stone. Beneath one cluster of marks, she found something darker, crusted and old. When her beam hit it, her stomach dropped. Dried blood. The smell of damp earth grew stronger. Rachel gagged, pulling her sleeve over her mouth. Then, faintly, from somewhere deeper in the basement, came the sound of nails dragging slowly across wood. She swung the light wildly. Who's there? Silence. But when she turned back to the scratched wall, she saw fresh marks. They hadn't been there seconds ago. 3 lines, sharp and clean, cutting through old dust. Rachel bolted upstairs, slamming the basement door and bracing her weight against it. The wood shuddered once as if something had knocked back. Then nothing. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but instinct made her swipe. A woman's voice, brittle and shaking. "You live in my house." Rachel froze. "Who is this?" "They told me someone moved in. I lived there in '99. My name is Karen Miller." Rachel's pulse spiked. "The Millers disappeared." "No," the voice said. "We ran. We left everything. My husband said it was madness, but we had to. Do you hear it too?" "The knocking," Rachel whispered. "And the voice," Karen rasped. "Always asking to be let out. Don't open anything. Don't dig. That's how it starts." The call cut out. Rachel stared at the screen until it dimmed. Sleep was impossible. She lay in bed with the lamp on, covers tight, eyes on the floor. At 2:13, the knocks came. This time they didn't stop at 3. They went on, louder, closer. Her bed vibrated with each strike. The wood groaned as if something huge pressed upward from beneath, trying to break through. Rachel clamped her hands over her ears, tears streaming. "Stop!" The knocks ceased instantly. Then silence. Then a new sound, scratching from inside the walls of her bedroom. Slow, deliberate, circling her like a predator tracing the perimeter of its cage. Her lamp flickered. Shadows rippled. And then, in the corner near the closet, a strip of wallpaper peeled back on its own, curling like old skin. Underneath, words carved into the plaster revealed themselves in jagged, desperate strokes. "Let me out." Rachel stumbled from the bed, knocking over the lamp. Darkness swallowed the room, leaving only the faint gleam of those words glowing pale in the moonlight. From the closet, something knocked back. Rachel couldn't bring herself to open the closet. The knocks had stopped, but the silence afterward pressed harder, like the air itself was waiting for her to slip. She spent the rest of the night in her car, headlights cutting across the empty road, gripping the steering wheel until dawn burned the horizon. By morning, she was shaking with exhaustion. Her editor called, demanding to know why she hadn't filed copy. Rachel almost laughed. How could she explain she was being hunted by her own house? She hung up and drove aimlessly until she found herself parked outside the public library. The librarian recognized the address instantly. "That house again," she muttered. She disappeared into the stacks, returning with a brittle leather-bound book. Ashbrook, a local history. Rachel flipped through pages of photographs, old maps, hand-sketched diagrams. One entry made her skin crawl. 1871, construction halted on Willow Creek property after laborers refused to return. Reports of disappearances in the night. Town records claim the foundation was laid over unmarked graves from a cholera outbreak. Basement sealed, property abandoned for decades. Beneath the entry was a sketch of the original blueprint. The basement had more than one room. A crawl space ran beneath the living room floorboards, directly under where Rachel heard the knocking. Her stomach twisted. Something was down there. She bought tools on her way back. A hammer, a crowbar, gloves. By evening, she stood in the living room, staring at the worn boards. "You want out?" she whispered, voice shaking. "Let's see you." The first strike of the crowbar echoed through the house like a gunshot. She pried up one plank, then another. Dust billowed, carrying the sour smell of rot. Beneath, darkness yawned, narrow, suffocating, like the mouth of something waiting. Her phone flashlight cut through the black, revealing a dirt crawlspace no higher than 3 feet. Cobwebs shimmered in the beam. The earth looked disturbed, uneven, as though something had been buried and dug up, over and over. Rachel lowered herself in, heart hammering. The air was cold, damp, and thick with mildew. Her breath fogged as she crawled forward, knees sinking into soft earth. Then she saw it. A wooden door, half rotted, wedged into the dirt wall. Its frame was crudely hammered, splintered at the edges, but unmistakably a door. Her phone trembled in her hand. Across the wood, gouged deep by something sharp, were the same words she'd seen upstairs, "Let me out." Her chest tightened. Every nerve screamed to turn back. But some instinct, journalistic, stubborn, suicidal, pushed her closer. She reached for the rusted latch. Before her fingers touched it, the knocking started. Not behind her, not beneath her. From inside the door, 3 sharp raps. Then, again, louder. The wood shivered, dust raining from the frame. Rachel gasped and scrambled backward, knees scraping against stone. As she clawed out of the crawl space, something struck the other side of the door so hard the latch snapped free. The sound that followed was worse than knocking. It was breathing, wet, ragged, too large for the space it came from. Rachel bolted up through the broken floor, dragging herself into the living room. The boards around the hole shook violently as if something was forcing its way up. She dropped the crowbar and sprinted toward the front door, but it slammed shut before she reached it. Locks clicked on their own, windows sealed with a groan. The house itself seemed to inhale. And from the crawl space, a voice crawled up through the floorboards, clearer now, no longer a whisper. "Thank you." The voice slid through the house like oil, soaking into every corner. Rachel's skin crawled as the floorboards bulged upward, as if something enormous pressed against them from below. She staggered back, eyes darting toward the window. She grabbed a chair, swung it hard. The glass didn't even crack. The house held her in, walls shuddering with a low, hungry groan. From the crawlspace, a hand rose through the opening. Pale, soil-stained, fingers long and crooked. It groped at the air, nails scraping wood, leaving black streaks where it touched. Another hand followed, then a head. It wasn't a corpse, it wasn't alive. Its face was gray, features blurred like wax melted under heat. Eyes sunk hollow, mouth stretched too wide. It crawled upward with jerking, insect-like movements, dragging itself into the room. Rachel stumbled toward the stairs. The thing's gaze snapped to her, mouth opening in a soundless scream. The words carved on the walls echoed in her head. "Let me out." She bolted up the staircase, feet pounding, but the house bent against her like a trap. Doors slammed shut before she reached them. The hallway stretched longer than it should, angles wrong, shadows thick. Behind her, the thing climbed, each step groaning under its weight. Rachel dove into her bedroom and slammed the door. She shoved her dresser against it, heart racing. From the hall came the sound of nails dragging, slow and deliberate, across the wood. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up. Unknown caller. Hands trembling, she answered. Karen Miller's voice hissed through static. "It's not asking, it's choosing. It needs someone to stay, that's how it survives." Rachel's throat tightened. "How do I stop it?" "You don't," Karen whispered. "You replace." The line went dead. The door shuddered, a blow rattling the dresser. Another, harder. Splinters cracked. Rachel's mind raced. Replace. Her eyes landed on the mirror. Her own reflection stared back, pale and wild-eyed. Something moved behind her in the glass, black shapes writhing, pressing closer. A thought, raw and instinctive, struck her. It wasn't bound to the house. It was bound to whoever answered, whoever stayed. The knocking began again. Not on the door this time. From inside the mirror. 3 steady raps shaking the glass. Her reflection leaned forward, lips moving a fraction before hers did. The voice seeped out, deeper, layered. "Stay." Rachel's breath caught. She understood. The house didn't just consume, it trapped. And now it was asking her to take the place of whoever had been held before. The dresser crashed aside as the door exploded inward. The creature lurched through, crawling low, arms stretching impossibly long. Its hollow eyes locked on hers, mouth yawning open in a guttural moan. Rachel grabbed the mirror with both hands. Her reflection smiled back, a fraction too late. She felt it pull, cold, relentless, like being dragged into icy water. The creature lunged, but its hand stopped inches from her as though hitting glass. She screamed as the mirror swallowed her. The room fell silent. The creature, gray and trembling, straightened. Its features shifted, blurred, reshaped, flesh smoothed, eyes cleared. In moments it was Rachel, breathing steady, skin warm, hair falling across her face. The mirror on the wall showed nothing, just an empty bedroom. Downstairs, the house exhaled. Floorboards stilled, windows unlocked with a faint click. The front door creaked open, letting the night breeze drift in. Rachel, or what wore her shape, walked calmly down the steps, out onto the porch. The cicadas hummed. The town was quiet. Behind her, deep in the crawl space, came 3 faint knocks, and then silence.